Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about The Midnight Sky and why I liked it more than I liked the book. So if you're not familiar, The Midnight Sky is a recent Netflix adaptation of a novel by Lily Brooks Dalton called Good Morning Midnight. I read this book back when it came out, and it was when I first got back into reading, primarily as a main hobby, and I love this book. That being said, I did like the Netflix adaptation more. It is, I think, George Clooney is in it, but I think he also directed or co-directed the film itself, and they changed some things in the plot. Just minor things, enough that I think it did so much better at creating an impactful story, unfortunately, than the book did. I think the book could have been like outstanding had it done what the movie did. But, you know, at the same time, it's just a really good adaptation. Just really good, in my opinion. So, without further ado, we're going to get into it. I'm going to discuss some of the differences and talk about it a bit. Okay? There's going to be spoilers in this, so if you don't want that, click away. I will have warnings throughout the video and in the title and stuff, okay? Alright, let's talk about the big main differences here. First of all, the character Sully, I'll put a picture here probably. She is one of the astronauts. She's like kind of the main character within the astronaut crew that you focus on in both the book and the movie. And in the book, she is not pregnant, and that is a major difference. And it really comes back to make an impact later, I think. In the book, they have a lot more discussion of her relationship with her parents, especially her mother. And in the book, you didn't really get a lot of that. They didn't talk about her family at all, really. And her focus more as a character is on her relationship with the other astronaut with whom she's having a child. Again, that is not even a thing in the book. So the two are not in a relationship in the book. But I did like the shift in focus. I felt it helped you connect with the characters on the spaceship more than compared to the book. Secondly, Sully in the novel already has a daughter with whom she is estranged. This is discussed quite a bit, but in the movie there's either no discussion of this or it's implied that she does not have a family, she doesn't have any children, but she is pregnant. They find out she's going to have a daughter. So there is a little bit of overlap there. Both of them are daughters, but like in the book, she had already had this daughter and was estranged from her. And in the movie, she has not yet had the child. My second point here is that Augustine's discovery of Iris, the little girl that's with him, is a bit different in the book. I feel like it's maybe a little more drawn out in the book, but I did like how quick that came about in the movie. I thought it was pretty cute and clever. Like, the relationship is fairly similar. I would say I got creepier vibes from Iris in the book. I'm kind of disappointed by that aspect. She is a little creepy because she, like, doesn't talk. But there's a reason. Like, if you watch the whole movie, there's a reason. Also, in the novels, the catastrophe that destroyed everybody, like, destroyed the Earth and everything, the apocalyptic event, is, like, really vague. In the movie, they give a little bit more detail. Like, there's radiation they're worried about, and Augustine becomes worried about the radiation and things like that. So that is not in the book. There is no mention of, like, radiation or things like that. So I found that an interesting detail. I definitely feel like it added a bit of, like, urgency to the situation on the ground. Because we already have that sense of urgency up in the spaceship because they can't contact anyone on Earth. So then you have this sense of urgency on the ground as well. And then there is one of the astronauts. I cannot remember her name in the movie, but in the book her name is Devi. And she dies in both scenarios, but the circumstances of her death are slightly different. Basically in the movie she gets injured and is, like, bleeding to death. And in the book she gets injured on the spacewalk, but her suit has a leak, and then she basically, like, suffocates and dies out in space, and Sully needs to, like, actually untether her, and, like, push her into space. Why? I don't know, but they like, I think that's what happens, at least from what I remember. They like yeet her into space. The circumstances of her death are a little different, but she dies in both scenarios. The thing that I think made the biggest impact was the ending. The ending in the movie compared to the book is pretty different. I would say the changes are significant enough that it changes the whole feeling of the ending. In the book, they dock with ISS, okay? And in the movie, what happens is two of the astronauts decide to go back to Earth, even though they might die from radiation poisoning, because they're trying to find their family and stuff that they left behind. And the other two that are still remaining, Harper, I think his name is Harper, and Sully, the couple with the baby on the way, they turn around and go back to the planet that they were discovering, because that's really the only way they're going to survive. Yeah, but in the book, they dock with ISS and like all go back to Earth. It's strange. I'm like, why? But see, in the book, there's like no mention of the radiation. It's just like everybody died and we don't know why, and come back to Earth because we need humans here. Like, it's very bizarre and like very vague in the book. So I did like in the movie how they had more details, so you kind of understood what was going on more. The main difference with like the very, very end. So in the movie, they finally contact Augustine, and he's talking to Sully, and like realizes it's his daughter who he like never got to know, and there's this whole thing with like he had a child with a woman and he didn't want to have kids because he's so focused on his career, so she left and had raised the kid on her own, and he only got to like meet her very like from a distance, like just saw the woman with his daughter getting in a car, okay, and is like, that's my daughter. Ugh. But he never gets to actually meet her and know her. Just knows her name. Her name is Iris. This is where we're tying together. The little girl he is with in the Arctic Circle is a hallucination of his daughter, as she was as a child. And you don't realize this in the movie until the very end, because they don't show her face as a child earlier in the story. And then all of a sudden it's like, bam! Oh yeah, that's who that is. That's why she doesn't talk. So he's like sick and dying, alone, and he's hallucinating his daughter and like regretting not having a relationship with her, or like having a family and actually living his life while he was alive. Yeah, so it's quite depressing at the end. The difference is in the book, you realize that Iris is not real, but you don't. Augustine doesn't get to learn that Sully is his daughter. That's the difference. He dies, and there's like a weird thing with a polar bear. It's weird, okay? He like goes out into the snow. So basically, simultaneously as in the book, simultaneously as Harper and Sully are re-entering the atmosphere, in like an escape pod, they disclose, I think Harper says Sully's first name, which is Iris, but at the same time Augustine is like walking into the fucking snow without a suit on and dying. And then there's like a polar bear that comes and he sees it, I don't know, he hallucinates a polar bear and then dies. But he never gets to learn that Sully is actually his daughter. It's just like disclosed to the reader, essentially. So in both of them, there is this disclosure that's the big like drop at the end, but in one of them only the reader gets to know it, and in the movie, or in the book, only the reader gets to know it, and in the movie, Augustine gets to know it. And honestly, that difference made a huge impact on the emotional weight of the movie. Those were some of the little differences, and then some of the bigger differences that changed the plot and the emotional weight of the movie versus the book. Again, I like both a lot. Like when I read the book, I was like, this is so fucking good. Honestly, a lot of what the book is, why I thought it was so good, is that it explores isolation, death, grief. It has a lot of really dark, like cold, emotional themes that it discusses, and like when I read it, it was so immersive. Like I could feel the isolation. Again, to this day, it's still one of my favorite books. So I definitely recommend that you give it a try if you haven't read it. Although I would recommend reading the book first and then watching the adaptation, because if you do it in reverse, you might be disappointed by the book. Just saying. Yeah, anyways, that's all I got for you guys. Those are the main differences between the book and the movie. If you have any more comments to leave down below regarding this, if you've also read the book and then watched the movie, let me know, and let me know what you thought, because I'm really curious how people feel about this. Also, I want to recommend, if you haven't read the book, just read the book, then watch the movie. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I post videos every Tuesday and Thursday, and I will see you guys later. Hope you have a good week.